According to StatMuse, Russell Westbrook is the first MVP to be traded in 3 straight seasons. It wasn't too long ago when he was the star of the show in OKC, and despite the haters, including myself, predicting that he'd drop off by his early 30s, we were wrong. Maybe he's not as good as before, not as explosive as before, but he's still super productive, and just had another season of averaging a triple-double. Even with a slow start, the latter part of the Wizards season was fantastic, and Westbrook turned it around. However, for such a high-caliber player to be tossed around like this, it's surprising. Now on the 4th team of his career, his 3rd team in 2 years, the once prominent superstar is being shipped around a lot. But why is that? Does he just not fit in? Does his playstyle not work? Is it his contract? How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today let's take a detailed look at how Westbrook got to this point, and what's making him get traded so often. But before we start, this video is sponsored by HelloFresh, a meal kit delivery service that offers many recipes to choose from. Some options include vegetarian, carb-smart, low-cal, and pescatarian meal plans to fit any of your dietary needs. Instead of feeling the stress of meal planning or going to the grocery store unsure of what to buy and maybe buying too much and wasting food, HelloFresh offers 50 different market and menu items each week. You can get it all right at your doorstep and avoid the summer heat. Here's the box I got. It includes 3 different meals, all packaged very nicely, with ice packs to keep the meat cool. It comes with spices, sauces, veggies, all proportioned for you, so you don't have to waste any food. I decided to cook up some tacos with the pulled pork. I added some garlic, spices, onions, red onions, and cilantro, and topped it off with some lime juice, and it came out very well. If you're interested, go to HelloFresh.com and use my code ANDYHOOPS14 to get 14 free meals, including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com and use my code ANDYHOOPS14 at checkout. On September 29, 2017, Westbrook signed a colossal 5-year, $205 million deal with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He was rewarded with this after coming off an incredible MVP season. This deal, while massive, actually the biggest deal in history at the time of his signing, it was meant to happen. Westbrook was the de facto face of the franchise. There's no way you're not giving him the max. However, for his next 2 years in OKC, his numbers, especially his efficiency, saw a huge drop-off. You could attribute it to his knee problems. Every season, he's been getting injections to heal the inflammation before the start of every season. Westbrook doesn't talk about it much, but it's a huge reason why he's known for having slow starts. His latter half of the season is always better than the first half. The 2018 and 2019 playoffs proved to be a disaster for the Thunder, losing both times in the first round. For Westbrook, his playoff performances have always come into question, because he really struggles against teams who know what they're doing. In both those years, he shot less than 40% from the field in both series, which isn't really surprising anymore. I'd be more surprised if he shot above 40%. The reason for this is his shot selection is completely different if you compare his regular season with his postseason. He might be the only superstar in the NBA who has such a drastic difference in playstyle and shot attempts. Let's take a look at these 2 years. In the regular season, only about 35% of his shots come from mid-range distance, or the three-point line. In the playoffs, that increased to 50%. 50% for a guy who isn't known for his shooting. 38% of his shots came at the rim compared to just 26% in the playoffs. And that's his strongest area by far, yet he's taking so little. Most importantly, 72% of his attempts came from the right side of the court in the regular season, but just 41% in the playoffs. Essentially, what this all means is that defenses in the playoffs are trying to make it as tough as possible for him to get any sort of comfortable look. Westbrook excels at driving hard to the rim on his right dominant side. That's where he does the most damage. Not only did he rarely get the chance to do that, as he got blocked off by the defense, but when he did get to the rim, he only shot an abysmal 51% from there, compared to his usual 63% in the regular season. Against Utah, they had Gobert, who always gave him trouble in the paint. Coupled with accusations of stat chasing, padding his boards and assists, it was a whole mess. I remember there were times when he would get 10 assists, but then just stop passing the ball because he already hit double digits. It's habits like those that attract the critics, and make his triple-double records almost seem fabricated. In the summer of 2019, the OKC front office quickly realized that this wasn't gonna work out. They haven't gotten out of the first round since Kevin Durant left, and now Paul George demanded a trade. Westbrook soon after also followed suit. His arrival to Houston actually created a positive change for Westbrook's career. First, the question was, is he really going to be that much of an upgrade over Chris Paul? Can him and Harden play together? They did before, but things have changed. Paulo Uggetti of The Ringer explained his perspective of this trade. Westbrook's presence means Harden could see less of the ball. By now, we know that Russ will be Russ. This means it's up to Harden to make adjustments and play as well off the ball as he does on the ball, similar to how he did at the start of his career to fit into OKC's backcourt with Westbrook. In theory, Westbrook's drive and kick game should open up space and shots for Harden, but will Harden be okay with not getting to wait 20 seconds before sidestepping into a three? However, what he got wrong was that it was actually Westbrook who was the one willing to make adjustments and defer to Harden. As per usual, Westbrook started off the season slow, but as it progressed, he picked up the pace. Slowly, yet surely, him and Harden figured out how to play off of each other, again. Westbrook, who always got criticized for standing around staring at the ball and not moving, he started, well, moving. Overall, he was killing it, averaging 32, 8, and 7, 53% from the field in the last 2 months before the season got suspended. It was terrible timing. Him and the team were finally looking good, and yet all of this had to happen. Sadly, when the season rolled back up, they kinda regressed to their former selves. The chemistry was gone. They barely scrapped past the Thunder before falling to the Lakers in 5. Westbrook had some good games, but still finished with the lowest points and assists per game out of any playoff run of his career. That off-ball movement he started to get better at, it all regressed back to where they started. For the Rockets, the playoffs in the last few years have always been the Harden show. Give the ball to Harden and watch him go one-on-one. Now, with Westbrook, they can watch both of them take turns going one-on-one. Yay. Granted, Westbrook did contract COVID and he had a quad injury too. It was clear he wasn't fully healthy. But the fact that he played so well in those last 2 months before the season suspension, it gave people hope. He showed he can still be a superstar without enforcing his will on the entire offense. He learned how to play off the ball. It was a great sight to see. Now, we fast forward to December of 2020. Rumors came out that Westbrook and Harden, despite being longtime friends, were unhappy. According to Tim McMahon, Harden and some other players were routinely late to practices or film sessions. At one point, Westbrook even screamed at Mike D'Antoni to start the film session without Harden, since he was late again. Overall, he wasn't a fan of the culture on the Rockets, a similar reason to why Chris Paul was unhappy. Basically, Westbrook was gone. Shortly after, he got traded to the Wizards in exchange for John Wall, another disgruntled all-star point guard. And again, Westbrook started off slow. At one point, the Wizards were 3-12. Yet, as usual, he picked it up as the year went on. He was still putting up impressive stats, but you could tell that since his MVP season, his game, his athleticism, and speed slowly declined. His turnovers were nearly 5 per game, which is horrendous. Even as his usage rate decreased, his turnover numbers were still ridiculous. An 18% turnover rate, meaning he turns the ball over nearly 1/5 of the time he has it. Executives around the league noticed that this is something to pay attention to. According to Zach Lowe, this is what was said at the beginning of his season in DC. For years, executives within the league warned Westbrook might be one of those players, reliant on athleticism, without a reliable jumper, who falls off fast. What we have seen in Washington is either the beginning of that accelerated drop-off or a blip of severe underperformance. An astonishing number of his turnovers have been unforced. Westbrook seems to have lost control of his handle, almost as if he has the yips. He is regularly bonking the ball off various extremities. Nonetheless, just like every season in recent history, Westbrook once again shut up the haters. In the second half of the Wizards season, he worked his way back into form. That whole notion he would fall off a cliff, that was put to rest, at least for now. July 2021, Westbrook got traded again, this time to LA, for a package that honestly doesn't look that impressive. But those three role players, even though they didn't have a great season by their standards, they were still valuable members of the team. Westbrook as an individual is clearly better than all of them, but the question has always been the same: will he fit? Can he adapt and play alongside LeBron and Davis? He's the third option on the team, so he shouldn't be taking shots like he's the first option. But then again, it's Westbrook, you never know. As we've seen from his entire career, when Westbrook is on your team, your offense will be different than before. It won't revolve completely around him, considering LeBron will still be the primary playmaker, but it will be very, very interesting to see how all of this plays out. Since signing that massive deal back in 2017, Westbrook's career has not gone as expected. Initially, he wanted to be in OKC for the rest of his career, but he also realized that there was no hope to win a championship. He earns over $40 million a year, and it was reasonable when he signed it. Regardless, teams realize that they can't do much to build around him. The reason he's been getting traded so much is because he's not as much of a difference maker as his numbers suggest. Yet, it's also easy to trade him, even with his huge salary, because he's still good enough that other contenders want to take a chance on him. At this stage of his career, getting traded to the Lakers is probably the best thing that could have happened to him. If anything, he's back home with his friends and family. If the Lakers are completely healthy, I think they can claim the West and the championship. And that's all, folks. Triple-double after triple-double, Westbrook has made us numb to the fact that a point guard can record a triple-double so easily. Regardless of how it's done, he's still doing it, years later. Let me know your thoughts on him. How do you think he'll do in LA? Do you foresee a championship on the horizon? I think so. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.